Glavin! Hello, this is Zerb. I wanted to take some time to sadly report that Jerry Lewis had passed away after Louis Palmieri and myself recorded this episode of The Nutty Professor. He was alive and well during the time that we recorded it. We chose to do the movie Nutty Professor because it was my turn to pick a movie. The poor man died of heart failure, which is sad. I mean, he was 91 years old. He was an incredible father. He was an incredible actor, screenwriter, director, humanitarian, singer, dancer, producer. He taught directing to some of the biggest names in movies, Steven Spielberg, James Cameron. You name it, he's done it. Born March 16th, 1926, and passing away a couple days ago. That's a nice, long life. He's in heaven now with Dean Martin dancing around, and hopefully he'll meet my pop. That'd be neat, because my dad really loved Jerry Lewis. If it wasn't for my dad showing me Jerry Lewis, I wouldn't have known a thing. So sit back, relax, get up and get down. It's time now for Theater Cast. Tonight's episode, The Nutty Professor. We'll miss you, Nutty Professor. Is there always an app for that?
Well, there's a lot of apps out there.
Is there an app?
An app to help you make apps? There's several.
How apt?
Very.
Theater Cast with Lewis and Zerb. Right
Theater
here.
Cast with Lewis and Zerb.
Hello and welcome to episode 4.
3.
Episode 3 of Theater Cast, pre-recorded live in the heart of Connecticut here in KMAX Studios. Tonight we discuss the film Nutty Professor, the original.
Yes, the original, 1963 with Jerry Lewis.
So sit back and relax. Please get your tickets, grab your popcorn, drinks, take your seat, for the show is about to begin.
Here's Johnny. You can't handle the truth.
For theater
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
with Lewis and Zerb.
Get busy living or get busy dying.
Get your tickets. Take your seats.
I'm Jenny. I'm Forrest Gump.
Are you going to plagiarize the whole thing for us?
For theater cast.
I figure it would be safe to say, kicking off the show, that we are both quite befuddled.
Befuddled.
Maybe physically and mentally from work and the excessive traveling that I have done all over the East Coast.
Yes. I am proud to say, though, my back is 98%.
98%. Your back was out for a while, which is why we haven't been able to record number one. But
There was like a week there where I had a hard time getting out of my chair. And then once I got out of my chair, I didn't allow myself to sit down, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to get back up again. Took me like 10 minutes. I've never felt so old for a young guy. That's terrible.
And I was traveling all over the world. I went to Virginia. I went to Vermont. So I've been all the way up to Vermont and all the way down to Virginia and everywhere in between.
Well, I went to the northern part of Middletown, and then I went all the way down to the southern part of Middletown. I rarely ever travel that far. It was insane for me, too.
That's why your back went out.
Yeah, it must have. Well, that and all the bricks I was carrying.
The bricks of sorrow and contention.
Well, I read a pamphlet, and apparently you don't join the Freemasons the way that I thought you did.
That's gotta hurt.
It hurt.
So we are here to discuss one of Jerry Lewis's finest moments in history. And I was thinking, how could we start this show without just jumping right into the film? But we can start with jumping right into our questions. Every show that we do, we of course have 6 questions that we ask our movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, with this movie, because it was from 1963, the who, what, where, whens, and whys are short. They are to the point.
Exactly.
What's question 1?
Question 1 is always, who made this?
Jerry Lewis. Question 2.
No. The truth is I do want to talk a little bit about Jerry Lewis, which I was trying to do in the car with you, and I thought, no, I shouldn't ruin any of my discussional points.
This is a Jerry Lewis vehicle, though. It's all Jerry Lewis
Totally.
all day. He wrote it, he directed it, he starred in it.
And produced it. There's some things I want to tell you about Jerry Lewis. I started telling you in the car how much of an ass he is now.
Yes.
We're all aware of how grungy, angry, fed up, exhausted. There's comes a time in your life when you should just let bygones go or let time go up and you say, okay, I did a great job. I'm going to retire now. He hasn't. He's still out there going nuts. He did Max Rose a couple of years ago, a great movie about a gentleman who realizes that after, 60 years of marriage, his wife had been cheating on him the whole time.
The whole time?
The whole time. And
Even into her old?
yeah.
You know,
and well, maybe not into her old, but...
like retirement home swinging?
Well, they're all the rooms right next door.
True.
And and he made that movie, and there was another movie he was working on before the passing of Jonathan Winters and all the classic people. There's Bob Newhart in this film. There was Don Rickles, and he passed. There was a movie they were working on where there's an old folks home, and all these great old comedians had to put on one show to save the old folks home. Great idea for a movie. Nothing ever came of it. Unfortunately, people pass away. All these little things like Max Rose didn't do squat anywhere. Didn't even make it to DVD, poor thing. Was in the theater in very select locations and got high praise, but not too high, so it didn't go anywhere else.
So it probably just showed up in a bunch of art house theaters.
Exactly. And
yeah.
So Jerry's career now is mostly strands of what was once greatness. I mean, the man's made, with Dean Martin, over $2-point-something million at 25 cents a ticket back in 1950 off of movies that he was making. The Bellboy, Errand Boy, some of the other movies that he did, the Who's Minding the Store, all of the classics. And now he can't even sell a bucket of popcorn, even if he was holding it and giving it to you. I said it.
Okay.
And Jerry, if you're listening, hey, I paid money to see you. I paid my daughter paid $88.
$79?
We paid $80 to go see you, Jerry. And it was an incredible show, but he's just basically playing old clips, and he calls them never seen before clips. But yes, on YouTube you can find these clips in a heartbeat. And he's playing them on a big screen, and then the lights would come up, and he would be sitting there going, now you can ask me questions about what you just saw. And then you ask him questions, and then anybody who ask a question that he doesn't understand, which is everyone, because he can't hear, and he won't wear the hearing aids, and he's just like, what? And you're like, what did you say when you were with Dean Martin? And then he'll go, it's sure nice coming to this area, and he'll be crappy, and it's like but I guess people eat it up. Now,
sometimes people see past that when it involves their idols.
True. In the pro area for this gentleman, Steven Spielberg took classes from Jerry Lewis on how to be a filmmaker. James Cameron was in his classes on how to be a filmmaker. He what is the word? He is the pinnacle and the starter of the box that sits next to the camera so you can watch what's going on and then play it back immediately. He is the one who invented that. He is the one to first come up with ways of lighting sets a certain way, the first one to come up with using certain types of tapes, methods, how to use cameras properly, and invented new cameras, new lenses, invented all kinds of stuff for making movies, and doesn't really get the credit for that. You have to look for the books and find out who did it. And he taught ways of angles, panning, widescreen versus little screen. I mean, he's responsible for most of that.
Do you think a lot of that is what adds to his sense of grandiosity?
Yes.
That he is better. His narcissism is causing his foolishness.
Exactly. To a point that sometimes it's irritating. And plus he's 90-something. So
yeah, I'm reading right here.
93?
His first credit was 1949. And his most recent credit, 2016.
Now, his first credit would have been Something Goes West or something? Or?
Let's see here. It says, My Friend Irma.
Irma.
Plays a guy named Seymour. But then I think the one you're thinking of is
Irma Goes.
My Friend Irma Goes West.
Irma Goes
where he
West.
also plays the same character of Seymour.
Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis basically doing their skit that they used to do night after night, making millions of dollars, just being slapstick funny.
He was born in 1926.
Ooh, 1926. I thought it was 30-something.
So he's 91.
Yeah. Thank you for doing math.
I do it well.
That's good. I'll be crushed when he goes. I got to speak to him. And I've played the clip 1,000 times. I'm sure other people have heard, but I'll play it right here.
My name is Mr. Zerbe, and you are Mr. Lewis, and it's an honor to meet you. I wanted to, you mentioned Max Rose coming out pretty soon. I wanted to ask about a film called Big Finish that I was reading about. And
A film what?
Called Big Finish.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to ask if that's a rumor, or is that going to be a movie that you're going to appear in?
I remember reading something about it, but I can't tell you I know any more than that.
Okay. And number two is, what are you looking forward to in the age of 88?
What?
What are you looking forward to for the age of 88?
I want to get to 88. That's all you can do is hope for it.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, and when I open my eyes, I'm a hit. I don't have to do anything after that. Once the eyes open and I know I got another day, I'm happy as a clam.
That was pretty good.
I just can't believe that I got a chance to talk to him. It was like looking at Santa Claus in the eye. And
Did you sit on his lap, too?
I wish I did. I probably would have broken it. 270 pounds on his lap.
Yeah, he's got, calcium deficiencies now, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Drink skim. But that being said, so that's the man who made this film. Who starred in it?
Well, Jerry Lewis, of course.
And Stella Stevens.
Stella something.
Stella Stevens.
I'll tell you in a second. Yep, Stella Stevens.
And
Del Moore.
she is hot. Oh, that's a him. Del.
Del, D-E-L.
Del Moore. Who else?
Stella Stevens, Del Moore, Kathleen Freeman.
Stop there. Kathleen Freeman. It's a mad world. No.
How many Mads are in that? How many?
I think there's
Mad
5 or 4.
Mad World?
Yeah.
4 sounds good.
She was in that. She's great. She is a great actress. Continue.
Med Flory.
Now you're going to get into names like Fleischer and Flugscher and
he just played one of the football player teens who is clearly in his 30s but playing like a 19-year-old
person.
Yeah.
And it goes downhill from there. But that's who starred in it. And they all did great jobs. A lot of the same people that were always in a Jerry Lewis film, with the exception of Stella Stevens.
She was like the bring on.
She was the bring on, and such a perfect. And there was a romance going on between them for a while.
Oh.
Yeah, it got saucy.
Saucy.
You could tell what girl he was dating by who appeared in what film at what time.
Oh, yeah. Like one of those... Sure, I'll put you in a movie.
Come on back here and show me your panties. Lady.
Excellent impression.
Thank you.
You'll be doing all the impressions for this one.
I'll try my best.
Oh, you're already doing good. How much money? A crap ton.
Still a crap ton. Still going.
Well, still making money. You bought the DVD, right?
I did bought the DVD. And also the Blu-ray box set just came out the year before last year. Huge box set of almost every movie he's made. But Nutty Professor has been restored and digitally enhanced and Blu-rayed, mint condition, and a lot of stuff that quote-unquote hasn't been seen before. And signed DVDs and signed this, that, and the others, and a great set. And so I'm sure that brought him another $1 trillion.
Do you think he got any royalties for the remakes of the Nutty Professor, the ones from
That's
late 90s?
A good question. He helped produce those, and he chose Eddie Murphy to do those movies because he was interested in doing it. And I think, and I could be wrong, but as far as I remember, he asked Eddie Murphy to do them. And I think either that or Eddie Murphy went and asked him, could I do these films? And he got the biggest blessings because he's a huge Eddie Murphy fan. I get upset sometimes when I ask young kids around your age, hey, do you ever see The Nutty Professor? Yeah, Eddie Murphy was great in that.
Hercules.
I'm like, no, The Nutty Professor. It's a great, great movie.
And when you go to like IMDb, for example, and you search for the name Jerry Lewis, one of the first movies that pop up is The Nutty Professor, because it was one of his big hits. So it made money. It made $1963. From what I hear, those are just as valuable as $2017, at least if you have them in cash.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And they had them in cash, all right.
But I don't even know what it would translate to in today's, dollars. The closest I could probably assume would be if you equated it to, like, the remakes, for example. Because people got really excited about them, and they got excited about seeing Jerry Lewis, and people went out to the theaters.
True. And the one thing I do know a little bit of trivia, if you will, about the movie, if you saw the movie, you'd know that he talks like this when he's like, surely, Miss Purdy, you don't understand that. He said that he was on a train from somewhere to Hoboken. There's always somebody going to Hoboken in Jerry Lewis world. And he was on the train, and he went up to a guy, and he says, do you mind if I sit here? And the gentleman says, I do not think I would mind at all if you would please have a seat. That would be fine with me, sir. And he kept that in his head. He thought that was the coolest accent he had ever heard, except there was a slight, I don't know if there was like an ethnicity to it, but the fact that the person was up here and this was the timbre of the voice was hilarious to him. And he thought if he put a New York kind of twist on there with a little bit of Jersey, then you have yourself a character of a very smart intensity that could be used. And of course, it's used as a scientist on The Simpsons now profusely by.
Oh yeah, that voice is
Harry Shearer, or not
definitively like the nerdy scientist, overlooked, maybe even abused scientist voice.
Hank Azaria.
You could put it on anyone.
Yes.
You really could.
And it's so perfect. I do it at work with all my friends if we're loading up the box. I'm like, hi, I got another Zoloft to go out to the people with.
And if we're talking about, trivia, Jerry Lewis himself came and played his father in an episode of The Simpsons.
That's true. His brain got removed or opened.
I don't remember the episode.
It was a Halloween episode.
Yeah, it was a Treehouse of Horror episode.
And his brains came out, and they took his father's brains, and put it in his head, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the father of the
scientist from The Simpsons.
Stupid guy. You just said that too, didn't you?
I think I said it, but in a really messed up, confusing way.
Okay, then I don't feel so silly for not catching the jive that you be pumping.
But he did a voiceover, and that's kind of cool because the character on The Simpsons, his voice, very much based on Jerry Lewis and the Nutty Professor. And
love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And I'm falling in love again with Jerry again. Now I'm going to want to watch his movies again because of the fact that you slide into this. He's a clown, and you feel like a little kid no matter how old you are. At least I do, because my dad used to watch him all the time, and he would force me to watch it. And when I was a kid, it was like being at the circus watching it. It made me laugh so hard. And then the older I got, the more I thought, what an idiot. It's such stupid because that's not cool. And then you go back and then you watch now at this age, and you're like, that's brilliant because you don't see it anymore. Jim Carrey attempts it, doesn't hit the fidelity that Jerry Lewis was.
There are some actors, I'm sure, that take a lot of influence from Jerry Lewis. But I got to say, when I was watching this movie, I felt a unique sense of a guy who was breaking into something that had never been done before.
True.
And when you can feel that, when you can actually feel that someone is trying something new and doing it with a relative amount of success, you can really appreciate it a lot more.
I appreciate you appreciating that because of your age. And you're watching this basically for the first time.
I'm so young. Yeah, no, that was the first time I ever saw the 1963 version of The Nutty Professor.
So that answers my question. What did you think?
Of the movie as a whole?
Yeah.
I thought that it was definitely a very good movie.
Yeah. What do you think of the rectum as a whole? Sorry, go on. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to ask.
Anyways, I liked it. And I would recommend it to anyone who can tolerate movies that don't go at the rapid machine gun pace that modern day movies go.
That's
if you can
very
actually
true.
sit and you have anything in the form of an attention span, you will enjoy this movie.
Anything in the form of an attention span. Amen. That's
Just
true.
saying,
There's
yeah.
not much of that left nowadays, and that's good that you have it.
And also, I mean, sometimes it's just fun, even if you don't like the storyline, just seeing people's mannerisms and the styles from, well, essentially 1963.
Yeah.
And the way people behaved and looked and talked even. That was also all very interesting to me.
There was such an attempt at decency that
There was, and yet
there was none.
the way they looked and their outward actions were that of people who were very civilized and trying to be decent. And then as soon as they opened their mouth, you were like, everyone in 1963 was a dick. They all were trying to one up each other, and they wanted to get in fights.
Like
And-
today.
well, I mean, at least today, you know,
You don't curt around it. You just
you don't
go
curt
right
around
into
it. Everyone looks like a dick and acts like a dick. These people were like secret agent dicks.
Very well said. Very well said.
What else? You know, just about the age of the movie. Oh, I noticed one thing.
What's that?
I don't think there was any people of color in this movie at all.
No, doubtful.
Like, I think maybe there was one person in the background at the very end, when they had the band playing and all that other stuff. I think I spotted the only minority in the whole movie. But it did strike me that there wasn't even an attempt to throw anyone. But I mean, also, you got to think about the environment. Most of the movie takes place in two locations. A college, which in 1963 would not have had a lot of people of color in it.
No.
And then also a club, and this is Jim Crow era, right? Or this is the end of it, at least.
I would think so.
So if there was a club, then
Hey, I gotta admit it. Who the hell's Jim Crow? I don't even...
this is some guy. He squawked a lot.
Got it.
But
I got you.
that's what he did. He just flap around town squawking at people. Anyways, he a club like that probably would not have anyone either.
No.
So it's not exactly out of character. What was that movie that just came out recently? Dunkirk.
I cannot wait to see Dunkirk, by the way.
I will see it at some point as well. But people were complaining that there were like no minorities of people of color in there. And it's like,
There were no
this
minorities.
is a World War era in which these were European countries, like Scandinavian countries or something like that.
We've gotten a little, and I'm going to sound like some backwoods hick. I don't care. We've gotten a little too pushy on that. I mean, if you look at the newest Star Trek, there's like an abundance, and we haven't even hit the aliens yet. They're just fly in the room.
I know.
We haven't even
Dinner.
hit the aliens yet, but there's an abundance of color.
They did throw it in there like a splashboard. But you know, if you're making a historically accurate movie, don't yell at people because you didn't like force color into that movie.
I know.
I mean, unless it's a historically accurate movie that takes place in like Egypt.
Sometimes
or
everything's
something
fine
like
in
that,
black
then-
and white.
Then there should be very few white people in it.
True.
But beside the point, yeah, I would almost even like to go in and just research and see if there were any credited black actors in it at all, because I doubt that there was. It might at the very least be guy number one, extra two.
Yeah, a guy named Token, who was the janitor.
Yep, Token the janitor. But besides it being an extremely white movie, and an old movie,
And a Jewish movie.
and a Jewish movie,
Very.
very, I want to talk about what actually happens in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
The
I forgot.
story.
That's what we do with this.
So, we talked about who was in it. We talked about, you know, who made it. And we talked a little bit about, you know, the quirks
Money.
of the movie.
And the money.
And the money, but I mean, the money, it made money. That's all we can really say about it. Let's not get into details because that's not as important.
It's not important. Go ahead.
But what was the movie about? It was about a kooky teacher, right?
It was about a professor.
Yep, the professor, that was the word.
Rather nutty.
Rather nutty, yes.
And his ambition in life was to teach, number one, and number two, impress young Miss Purdy, who obviously in the school, was it a college or was it a high school?
No, I'm fairly certain it was a college.
Good. Whew. That takes care of that. But
still an age discrepancy, but a legal one.
Yeah, legal, I guess so, in 1963. But the heart of Stella Stevens. He's trying to win the heart of Stella Stevens and figures the way that he is in his current capacity would not befuddle nor bewilder the heart of Miss Stella Stevens. Therefore, I must become a man of much greater stature, and what better way than with chemicals in the lab?
Yep, he was the stereotypical skinny, slightly hunched over dweeb who was easily picked on with big old buck teeth and thick glasses and like this hair slicked.
From hell.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that, but when you see a picture on the front of like a Halloween costume of a dweeb, that's very close to how Jerry Lewis looked pre, as the Nutty Professor, basically.
Yes, exactly. And he looked pathetic, and he was pathetic. Everything he attempted to do always ended up...
in like the second or third scene in the movie, one of his own students basically bullies him and throws him into a cabinet.
Filled with chemicals.
Like chemicals and beakers and stuff.
And because he wouldn't let him go to football practice.
Yeah, he was like, you got to stay here and learn. Oh my gosh, what a concept. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he got all
bad teacher. Naughty. And he picked him up and he pushed him into the closet. Who saved him?
Purdy,
Stella Stevens.
Oh, a heart of gold. I wonder if that was the moment when he was first like, I might have a shot. But first, let me concoct something.
No pun intended.
Pun intended?
Concoct? Gross.
So, I mean, a few other things happened too. He like blew up his classroom, and that was one of the first scenes of slapstick in the movie. There are a few moments of slapstick. It breaks the reality wall in this movie, not just with the mad science, but in the physical comedy realm as well. They find him under the door that they've all been walking on when the firefighters finally figure out. Yeah, they leave after, extinguishing whatever flames there were. And someone, like the principal's assistant, comes in or something and then finds him under the door. Like in the ground, imprinted into the ground, like Wile E. Coyote when he just slams into a wall too hard.
There's a lot of Looney Tunes activity in this film.
The Looney Professor.
The Looney Professor. There's your favorite, which you told me about the very next day when you saw it.
Oh, man.
Profusely, because you were so excited.
Before he realizes that he's going to need to use his brain to become the suave, good-looking man that would impress Purdy, he first tries a little bit of the traditional methods of becoming, a strong, confident man.
Manly man. Including
trying out a new diet routine and exercise. And I got to tell you, too, speaking of, 1963 era visions and scenery, when he goes to that gym, this isn't a 2017 gym with techno music playing on the speakers and hot people everywhere. This was a gym filled with, like, middle-aged men with, like, tank tops and crap tons of chest hair.
Retired drill sergeants.
Right? Retired drill sergeants. It was That was humorous in itself, and I don't think it was intended to be. That's the thing that's humorous now when it was just the way things actually were in 1963.
Exactly.
But he walks in there. He's like a dwarf amongst these people, and he starts trying to do some of the routines that they're doing. The weird shaker machine messes him up.
The old school ropes against the wall.
The old ropes against the wall. And the thing that got me, I told good old Zerby here pretty much like the day after I watched it that there was one scene that caught me way off guard, because the first part of the first slapstick, when he gets stuck under the door like that, I was like, okay, he's kind of just like under the door, haha, that's funny, a little unrealistic, not breaking any laws of physics here. This following scene, I had to pause the movie and get all my laughs out because I didn't want to miss what was going to happen next.
You were giggling.
I was laughing too hard because it caught me off guard. So he's lifting weights.
Right.
What was it? Barbell?
It was a barbell.
Yep. So he's lifting a barbell given to him by a man who could probably lift it with his pinkies.
Yeah.
And he's like, spotting him.
Yep.
And then the guy stops spotting him, and the barbells drop to the ground, and they cut away to him having arms that now extend to his feet. All the way to his feet, like long, and they put lots of hair on those arms, too. He had like long, extendo, hairy monkey arms.
Still holding on to the bar.
Still holding on to the bar. He didn't let go. He just let it. It didn't dislocate his shoulder. It stretched Armstronged his arms to the ground.
And the best, before you continue, I know there's more to it, but the best thing for that was the sound. Because you hear this massive boom along with him going, oh!
Yeah! They must have ADR'd in that afterwards because it was
perfect
such a
sound.
grunt.
It was a perfect grunt for that scene. And then so that caught me off guard. I was already dying laughing at that point. And then they do a nice little transition to the next scene, and I'm thinking he's going to be back to normal. But he's actually sleeping in his bed, and they do a shot of the foot of his bed where he's just, with no effort whatsoever, scratching his foot with his long-ass arms. Did you like that?
I had to pause. I don't roll on the floor laughing very often. In fact, it's probably twice a year tops.
Yeah.
That was my first one of 2017. I'm looking forward to the next one. I hope it's another crazy movie that you suggest.
I hope so too. That would be great.
But yeah, just the fact that humor, it was so sudden.
Yeah.
I expected it to just to be like, oh, I dropped weights on my foot type humor, like a more Three Stooges type slapstick. No, they made prosthetic arms that went. It was great. It was wonderful. And then at that point, I realized that this movie was not going to take itself too seriously, like I thought it had been doing up to that point. Now it was like, I got it.
During the concert that I saw Jerry Lewis in, he talked about that scene with the scratching of his foot. His assistant producer, Bill Richmond, who worked with him in all of his movies, that he helped him with everything, was the one that was in a cutaway bed underneath, and he had his arms up, and he reached up and scratched his foot for him.
Oh.
That's who did it. It was Bill Richmond. So while he was up in bed, and then he would move his foot a little
Nice little perspective trickery.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It was pretty good, though. It was pretty neat.
I think that was probably the moment when he decides he's going to, create a formula. The thing we all know from Nutty Professor is that he creates a potion of sorts.
To make himself enhance, and he tries again and again and again. He fills the Jeep up. Really cool Jeep from 1963, I think is a Jeep, with books and books and books. And he's reading and researching and talking to his bird named Mabel, I think.
Oh, that bird.
And I don't get people with birds, but, just like trying so hard to get it. And then one night he goes to work on it. He goes, tonight's the night, Mabel. I'm going to be, whatever. And the thing that drove me nuts is how long.
The transition scene
It drives me crazy every time I'm seeing it. I was like, I have to fast forward.
It does go on a little long. It's like they have comedies sometimes where someone will do a long form joke, and there's that little valley in between the joke where it's not funny, but then when it goes on long enough, it becomes funny again.
Yeah.
I think that this fell just short of that becoming really funny again. Even though I did notice a few cool things, like every time they did a cutaway of him so he could fall into more beakers filled with random colored fluids. He had a lot of beakers filled with random colored fluids, beakers, flasks, all of that stuff. He would be a different color.
Yes, he would.
He was, like blue, like grayish color, green. Purple. He would be changed. Oh, and I thought he was going to turn into a werewolf, to be honest. That's the kind of transition he was making. It was painful and like scary, and this dramatic sounds.
Hair everywhere, gorilla hands.
Yep. Oh, and he got even hairier again.
That's true.
They really played up on his hair. Was body hair big back then?
I guess
it must have been.
Yeah, the puberty was quite exciting in the 60s.
A constant, all into adult puberty. Just never stopped growing that body hair.
That's what it was.
Gorilla people. But oh, and it was also like only one of his hands changed too.
That's right. One was like inflamed and hairy, and the other one was perfectly
crazy
fine.
hairy, like all big and gross looking. And then his other hand was just a normal hand.
They didn't have the money in the budget to continue.
I figured it was something like that, but also just he was like, it was going wrong.
Yeah.
Like he was going to have one last mistake before his success. But then.
And then they did the perfect camera work for this, because you're him walking.
It reminded me of a
street.
Hitchcock scene.
Oh, it was beautifully done. And everybody stops and stares.
Yep, and people are staring at the camera. You are seeing from his perspective as he's coming from what, a tailor?
He's, I think so, by that point. You don't know this yet.
He's like
though.
getting a suit, but everyone is staring at him like he is hideous.
And it's freaky because of the fact that you cannot wait to see what has happened.
I was still expecting it to be like a reveal of, this didn't go quite right.
And he enters the Cantina Club, whatever that is.
The Purple Lounge?
Pit.
Purple Pit.
The Purple Pit. He goes in there.
That's what it was.
And he goes in there, and they do a quick zoom in on him with his lavender, teal blue, mixed purple zoot suit kind of deal. And he has a slight little bit of with his eyes, he does a twitch that reminds you that he's still deep down in there. There's a little bit, an ounce left of hey, but now there's hey baby, how you doing? And he's got a cigarette, and his hair's all slicked, and he is the Jerry Lewis that young, beautiful, perfect face.
Yeah, pretty good
Jerry
looking.
Lewis.
They pulled that off.
Perfect.
Oh, if only his attitude and his mannerisms could match his beautiful looks. Because the following scene of him going from spot to spot in the Purple Pit, which is, it's a lounge. It's you can get drinks, there's music, there's lots of young people hanging around. It's like the hopping spot for all the college kids to be going.
Absolutely.
And they even allude to it in the beginning that none of the staff from the college really go there. This really is the place for the young people.
Right.
So him even going there in the first place is like, oh.
Yeah.
But he goes from place to place, basically being the biggest jerk in the world. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a super suave, like, all the ladies are going to totally swoon over this guy. But he was not being nice.
Not at all. He intended it to be the biggest jerk. In fact, he used to get crap for it all the time, saying, is he playing himself? And which he is now. He now is that man.
When I was mentioning the grandiosity before, this is grandiosity.
Right.
If you were doing a psych class, they could show this scene in that class and be like, that is grandiosity.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Exactly. But he wanted it to be the most despicable person on earth. And that's what he was trying to portray, and pulled it off very well.
Success.
My favorite scene is, I could say this all through the movie. I have a bunch of favorite scenes, but one of my favorite scenes is him sitting at the bar, and the gentleman comes over and goes, look, buddy, I don't think we want your kind in here, or something of that nature. And then he goes, oh, please, Mr. Ball Brawler, please,
Bar brawler, yeah.
bar brawler, please don't hurt me. And then he makes his fist, and it's sort of like when you go, yeah, and you put your fist up in the air, but not really a fist. You put your thumb on the side, and he punches the guy twice. And then quickly, at the same speed of hitting somebody, pulls out a mirror to check his hair and make sure he didn't mess it up.
It was very fast. And he didn't get booted either from the bar.
No, nobody wanted to mess with him.
Yeah, I guess no one wanted to mess with him, or they were just like in awe. Like when you watch an animal at the zoo, you don't intervene when it starts like, throwing feces at the window. You're like, well, that's what they do.
Exactly.
We're just going to keep
just
watching.
Try not to catch it.
Oh, that monkey is bopping the other monkey on the head.
Great transition. Do you remember the name of the drink that he asked the bartender to make?
Oh, no. I forgot. What was it called?
The Alaskan
Polar bear.
Heater.
Bear.
And something like
Fish.
that. He says, make me an Alaskan polar bear heater.
Oh, man.
No, because then the bartender argues with him. He says, an Alaskan polar bear what? And he goes, I didn't say Alaskan polar bear. I said Alaskan heater. You said Alaskan polar bear heater. Now, get me some lime. Get me some cherry. Get me some bitters.
Get me basically one of everything that you have on your bar. This drink would have, in reality, been probably quite disgusting and extremely alcoholic.
And he says, hey, this sounds kind of good. Can I try it? And I go, sure, go ahead. Jerry goes, sure, go ahead. The guy takes a sip of it and then puts the cup back down and then starts pouring what's left of the big mixer flask into the glass. It doesn't move.
Freezes in place. Still. Mm-hmm. And then you're focusing on Mr. Nutty Professor there in the back. Or what
now he is...
what did he name himself?
That's embarrassing. Buddy Love.
Buddy Love. That's right. Well, you know why we don't remember what his name is?
Why?
Because he had to make it up on the spot too. He didn't have a name.
That's true.
He just literally started hearing sounds from the radio and stuff like that, and that's when he didn't have a name at this point.
That's true. So he had to make it up.
He had to come up with his name.
We were trying to show you how that felt.
Yeah, definitely. But so the guy, I think he killed him.
No, he didn't kill him.
He must have, because I think that
Why
drink.
Why did you think that? Go ahead.
That drink was essentially poison. He created a poison. He is the Nutty Professor. I mean, he just created a potion that transformed him.
Good point.
Into the future named Buddy Love. So he probably was like, I got a bunch of stuff on this bar. This barkeep is being a dippy-doo guy. I don't know. I just made that up. I was trying not to swear.
That was good, though.
But anyways, he just mixed a bunch of stuff together, and that bartender freezes in place and then falls to the ground.
Well, he pushes
like a
him
statue.
gently with his fingers after
Taps
he
him.
finishes. Just taps him.
Knocks him just enough off balance that he falls to the ground.
Crashes.
I'm surprised that there wasn't like a little cut at the end of the whole Purple Pit scene where we just see that guy still frozen in place on the ground. Just...
That would have been a great clip.
And two people lifting him out like he's a store mannequin. Yep. So he goes into the bar. He gets in a quick fist fight. He
tries to kill the bartender.
He might as well have been finger gunning at everyone. Hey. And then he kills the bartender.
Right.
Yep.
Then
what's her face comes in. His heartthrob.
Stella. And Stella, he manages to dance with her first, if I am correct. No, he plays the piano for her first.
Well, he kind of talks at her a little bit.
Right.
And she is the only person, and this must have been intentional. This is when I realized that his being such a jerk in this establishment was not just a reenactment of 1963's lounges everywhere. This was intentional filmmaking because she's the only one who actually calls him out on his BS. She is the only one that doesn't react with hey, that guy's pretty cool, even though he's punching people in the face and murdering bartenders. She's the only one who's I ain't impressed.
No shock and awe.
Yeah, but then he sits down at the piano and he sings a song, and everyone's like,
That old black magic. And I'll play a clip for you right here.
Black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine. The same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. The same.
And I love this song.
It's not a bad song.
I love that song.
And
I had to
his
download
rendition of it, too.
I paid for it.
Not terrible. But,
Yeah, he is a good
that
singer.
apparently was enough for everyone to be like, we forgive everything that he just did today.
yeah,
Came
killing,
in, caused a ruckus.
Murder.
But you know what? Pretty swell song. Hope we see you around here again.
If you're ever in trouble, sing a good song. You'll be fine.
He leaves with Miss Purdy at that point. Gets in her car. Oh, I love this part too. Sign of the Times again, 1963. He goes, you got a car, baby? Or something like that. She goes, of course I do. Name me a college kid right now that has a car. Nobody's running around with cars like that anymore. Young people are less and less having cars. Of course I do. No, you nowadays it'd be like, you got a car? Of course I don't. I got a bus pass. I can call an Uber maybe, but no, I don't have a car. What do you think this is? 1963?
In my family, I don't even know if he wants to be known as this, but my nephew now, who's going to be 20, is just getting his driver's license.
Just getting his driver's license,
But
let alone a car.
In his defense, he lives in Ashburn, Virginia. What's the point? You call Uber, or you just get on the thing, or you get on your bike, and everything is within 5 seconds away from you. It's no need for it. It's like living in New York City.
That's why I don't have a car. I pretty much spend all my time here in Middletown.
You do not have a car, but
I do not have a car, but I work in Middletown. All my doctors are in Middletown. All my grocery stores are in Middletown. There's a movie theater in Middletown, and also I stay in a lot.
And that helps.
Helps save money, so I can buy a car.
That's true.
How come every town in these movies seems to have this one hill that looks out over the whole town with all the lights? Where is that? I'm sure that one or two of them exist, but it seems like every single town in all of these, when they want to go somewhere in a car, that's where they go.
To make
every town. They could be on a desert island, and then they'll be like, well, let's go over here. All of a sudden, they would be at the top of a hill overlooking a city.
Let's go up to Devil's Peak and take a look out
make
over
out Point. Where no one's going to bother us, and we're all going to line up in our cars and creepily make out next to each other. That's a really fun thing to do, I guess.
Parking up the hill here.
Parking.
For us, it would be, I would guess it would be the Hubbard Castle.
I guess.
Because that looks over Middletown and Meriden, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the woods.
That's a good point.
It's just trees. You're just looking at trees.
Powder Ridge?
Not even.
The top of my hill up here from where I live?
Doesn't that look at a lake?
Yeah.
No, there's nothing. I guess you could get on the top of one of them really tall buildings. We can see the whole town from here. How'd we get our car up here? Don't ask questions.
The Portland Bridge.
Yeah, okay. I can see that. But stopping in the middle of the Portland Bridge is
death.
Less sexy and more dangerous. And also, if you stop there, cop's going to come up and be like, don't do it, don't do it.
Exactly, that's a good point. And sadly, that's happened a lot recently, not to deter from our show, but...
Say
a prayer for the jumpers.
It's right there.
Jeez. All right, continue.
Well, yeah, so they go up there, and, he starts, making some moves, and she even says that, you're actually kind of cool. And then he starts turning back into what's-his-face. He starts getting his Jerry Lewis voice.
Hi!
Yep, that starts getting into his normal speech.
He starts up, it's sort of like, baby, there's a reason that I brought you out here today because I wanted... Oops.
Yep, and he starts realizing, the potion I made, this is not a permanent fix.
It's wearing off.
It's something that's wearing off. And so he jumps. He just freaks out, jumps off the edge.
Yeah.
I don't know how far of a fall that was, but he just kind of he's catching his voice every time it changes, and he just jumps right over the little wall that's right there. He's like, oh, well, jumps. Just jumps right over.
Doesn't want to be caught.
Nope. And she's just looking like, did he just jump off the edge of Lover's Peak or whatever the hell this is?
And Stella has the perfect, Stella Stevens, who she is in real life, has the perfect face for confusion, almost mixed with understanding, I guess. But at the same time worry, but I'll see him later. And it's just that, oh, well. I can't define
Gonna go home.
Yeah, just go on with life here, and I'm sure I'll see him again. But...
So the rest of the movie has a few scenes of similar humor in it. Basically every night it seems like he's going to the Purple Pit.
Yeah,
he takes the potion again. He transforms, presumably breaks some more beakers filled with colored fluid. Turns into suave buddy love. Plays the piano for everyone, and everyone's starting to fall for him in the town. Everyone's starting to learn who this guy is. He's the cool guy, new guy in town, and people start wanting to know, well, who is this guy?
Who is Buddy Love?
Like, who is he really? We know that, he's a smooth-talking, chain-smoking, piano-playing, guy. Yeah, it seemed like every scene. There was actually a scene in this movie, not to digress, but...
Please, I'm about to as well, by the way.
He legitimately was smoking a cigarette, put out a cigarette, and then immediately lit up another cigarette. And there was a scene, I think, too, in which Stella did the same thing. But she actually, walked in and took a cigarette out, put out her cigarette, and then took a cigarette out of another man's mouth and was like, this is mine now. I'm going to smoke this cigarette on you.
That's the way it was back in the 60s.
I know, but I mean, my goodness. That was a lot.
I was born into an ashtray in 1970.
Really?
Yeah.
Seems messy.
Not really. I put out a few. What I was going to digress to really quickly is you mentioned again beakers filled with lots of color. I think because, as far as I know, the Nutty Professor would have been... Well, Who's Minding the Store? I can't remember if that came before or after. Was also in color. But I think at this point, they've kind of mastered the art of having a color movie. Am I full of crap? This is a guess more than anything. But I would think that's probably why there were so many colors in the film.
Just to make it pop a little bit?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just throwing this out there.
I think
any takers, believe me. If you don't, I don't care.
But also, if you've ever, I'm sure you had a chemistry class or two in your days.
Yeah.
But real chemistry isn't usually that colorful.
It's always
if you
clear.
want to differentiate between different fluids, you're adding color to it, or trying to create color intentionally with certain tests. You never have, tons of beakers filled with primary colors.
No, he's going off of the Freeling Looney Tune cartoon.
Yeah, he wants to
Bugs
create
Bunny.
a scenery like I am doing something here.
Yeah.
Lots of Bunsen burners, lots of presumably chemicals.
Yeah.
This is an apparatus that does basically magic.
It's true.
Science magic in this case.
Creates love, buddy love.
Yep.
But back to what you were saying.
Well, I don't know. He's just making a name for himself now. And who was it? The dean?
The dean who wanted him to perform.
The dean was like, well, maybe we should invite this Buddy Love to the dance formal. What was it? Prom? Something like that.
The dance
well, they don't do
prom,
proms.
Formal dance prom.
Yes. Jig. Get together.
Jig.
Shindig. Yeah. They're having a thing. Mm-hmm. They're having some kind of
a thing.
Yeah. What did they call it?
An event.
It was an event. They want him to get up in there and sing, presumably the one song that he sings every night.
The Old Black Magic.
The Old Black Magic. It's the only one. I think probably Jerry Lewis, just that was the only one he could record.
Likes to sing.
Yeah. So that's the one he kept singing over and over again.
And at that time, that would have been Frank Sinatra's hit, who he was friends with. So maybe that was a little bit of a...
Could be. But then there's a twist. all the teachers are required to chaperone this thing.
Henceforth, there and thusly, so is the professor.
So is the professor.
He must be there.
So he has a dilemma now. He can't let his boss down because he's already like blown up the school 3 times. He's on notice. He's very close to being fired.
True.
And so he can't just like, well, I'm just going to skip it. I'm going to be buddy love for the night. He can't do that.
Illegal.
Yeah, well, illegal, not a good career move. We'll put it that way. So he's concocting a plan at this point. And
the plan is?
What was the plan?
The plan was to
switch back and forth?
Bring the goody juice with him and basically chaperone part the night and then become buddy love. Yeah. When needed.
So that was his plan. His plan was to transform halfway through the night and become buddy love so he can show his face as the professor. Look at me. I'm chaperoning. Like. And I can't do it as good as you, though.
That's all you needed. That was perfect.
And then turn into buddy love and do his singing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
At this point, Stella is like totally into him.
Yeah, now
like,
she's finally
you've got my heart. And he does soften up a little bit, too. He's not as rough, but he does have still and persistently, as buddy love, this commanding, I can get anyone to do what I want. I am now the one in power type attitude. Because before, he was the one getting pushed around. And when he took this potion, suddenly he had the ability to make people do stuff. When you look at the Nutty Professor at the beginning of the movie and then buddy love in like the middle of the movie, you're like, wow, that is actually quite a transition. Especially if you're a person who isn't like used to seeing Jerry Lewis,
right,
in his prime. You can easily go into this movie and you aren't introduced to him as Jerry Lewis first. You're introduced to him as the character of the Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
Yes. But then you get to see the suave, well-dressed, smooth-talking guy. And then they do the backwards transition. It's much less violent. No breaking beakers filled with colored fluids.
Not at all. Nobody gets
his voice returns. I think it was even in like the middle of the song. He was attempting to do the song. And his voice starts going wacky.
Yeah, and then he has to do the speech
and
about
he realizes he can't
honesty.
get all the way through the song even.
Right.
And he just like takes off his glasses. His teeth suddenly get a little more bucky.
Well, he puts on the glasses.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. He puts
he can't
on
see
the
anymore.
Glasses. Yeah.
He's like blurry now.
He nerdifies. he turns
I do
back
that every
into the
day.
Geek, into the Nutty Professor.
Yep.
And then he has the big dramatic speech in which he tells people why he did what he did and all that other nonsense. Very heartfelt stuff.
And you feel the love.
You do feel a moment of sympathy for him.
Good speech, too.
Not a bad speech.
Yeah.
It almost makes you forgive how much of an ass Buddy Love is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, well, I mean, the alternative was him being everyone's punching bag.
Right.
And the one looked past by girls and that kind of thing. So in order to, get the things which he's been denied his whole life, he needed to become the world's biggest lovely voiced jerk. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
that's the film.
Yeah, that's more or less the film. There was a weird thing I noticed at the end of the movie. I don't know if you noticed this.
What's that?
There was like a weird glitch with the film at the end of the movie.
There was.
There must have been a problem. With
Jerry Lewis's one. Well, that's the thing. At the end of the film, all of his films, he basically shows you that he just made a film. He puts film stuff into it, or you'll see background scenes, or they'll pan out and you see the cast and
it looks like he threw in like the film tracks and stuff at the bottom and top of the the shot, and I was like, oh, that's weird. They must have done this once and realized they couldn't refilm it or something, so they just had to use the footage.
No, he just does that. Most of his films will end with the Cinderella movie ends with him showing like the stage that he performed it on. The movie about him being a man in a mansion with all the girls. Then they zoom out and you see the entire mansion set is a huge wall of rooms.
Yeah.
And Minding the Store, they pan out the end of that, and you see the store that he filmed in. It's sort of like Jackie Chan showing off all the stunts
all of his
he did in the
bloopers and
film.
stunts. Yeah.
He does that at the end of the film all the time. And of course, it ends with him with Stella Stevens. He and Stella go on. I think they got married and had babies, right?
I don't think it went quite that far.
In my head, it did for some reason.
No, there was kind of a scene earlier in the movie which you didn't think was foreshadowing, but like when he was finally he figured out the formula, he transformed already for the first time. He was like, I've got something here, and I need to like protect this formula. And so he sends in a sealed letter a copy of the formula
to his mom.
To his dad.
His dad.
Yes. Who is a person kind of like abused by women. Yes, dear.
That's right.
Exactly.
And they show him, I don't want you going down there and messing around in this store. Yes, dear.
Yep.
And he was a baby watching this.
He was a baby that looked exactly like the Nutty Professor in a crib. That was its own funny scene. And you think that
my poor papa.
Yeah, for the laughs. That's why they're showing that scene.
Yeah.
Except it's not. He was sending that formula to his father for safekeeping, so that at the very end of the movie, when he's the Nutty Professor who has kind of learned a lesson and gained a little bit of respect from the people that he likes, his father suddenly burst in the door of his classroom. And what does he have? He opened it up and he made some of that potion himself. And now he's a traveling salesman. Are you tired of being picked on? Are you tired of being the smallest person in the room?
Wow.
Well, here's what I got.
I must have stopped the movie before. I kept forgetting about that part.
Some kind of, I don't know.
Thank you, Lewis. I totally forgot about that.
Tincture potion. And then they do like the classic last joke that the movie literally cuts in on with a zoom in of the Nutty Professor leaving the classroom. He's like, oh, great, this is ridiculous. I'm out of here. And Stella comes running up behind him, and she's got 2 bottles of the potion in her back pocket.
Oh, yeah. I remember that, too.
Like, oh, yeah, let's get out of here. And she's got the potions. Like, oh, man, she wants buddy love,
baby. Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely, reminded you, because you can't end on a down note anyway. So they had to have that last little momentary laugh.
I've seen this movie about 3 billion times, and I guarantee I probably stopped it where I was like, okay, I know what happens after the speech. I'm not going to watch anymore, because I had totally forgotten that ending part.
Yeah, well, I watched it all the way through.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to make sure I was getting everything.
So let's do number 5 and 6 really quick.
All right.
Should there be a sequel? There was, kind of.
Well, there was a remake, and quite frankly, no. There doesn't need to be a sequel.
No.
Not only could they not really do a sequel for the 1963 version, but it just ended so tidy. There was no need to be a sequel. Anything else that they do would be missing the point of the whole story of the Nutty Professor, which is Guy improves himself with supernatural means. Maybe some people learn a lesson in the meantime. That's all there really needed to be in that movie. Everything else would just be
redundantly
convoluted. Yeah, you don't need it.
And redundant. It'd be stupid.
Exactly. Now the remakes, the Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy and stuff, I can see that they were able to do a sequel in that one.
Yeah,
because it had a slightly different effect. His potion.
Yeah,
it was a slimming down potion that it did make him a little bit more, smooth and less awkward, but it also drastically reduced his giant weight. It allowed Eddie Murphy to jump out of that fat suit in 2 seconds and be like, hey, I'm handsome and fit now and funnier and smarter. So, in that case, having it be like a thing that could be sought after by a lot of people, evil corporations and all that stuff.
Understandable.
Made sense.
Absolutely.
In this movie, it does not. They did fine with just the father, being the traveling salesman with the Be Awesome tincture.
And Eddie Murphy playing every role in that film practically was amazing. He did a great job on all of the characters, and you watch him and you don't see Eddie Murphy in there. You see the characters that he's playing.
True.
Even his own character, the professor, you look at it and it's...
something. Clump.
Yeah. And it's not Eddie Murphy until he is Eddie Murphy.
Exactly.
And I wish Eddie would do more work now.
And those movies are fine, and they aren't mutually exclusive. You can see the 1963 Jerry Lewis Nutty Professor, and you can see the
90s, I think.
97 or something.
Yeah.
The first Nutty Professor movie. Might have even been later than that, 99.
Probably.
I don't know. It was in the 90s at some point.
Completely two different movies.
Yep, completely two different movies. Similar
With the potion.
Concept.
The potion is the only thing.
Yeah, similar concept, but they're standalone enough that you can watch one and watch the other and enjoy both without feeling like you just watched the same thing.
Exactly.
So as far as the sequel, nah.
No, I'm with you 100%. Would you have done anything different in this film? Why?
I would have had a lot more spoken jokes.
Instead of visuals?
They were a lot of long
Slapstick.
setup jokes.
Ah.
And so sometimes you're watching a scene and you start to grow a little impatient for, all right, when's the punchline? Like what's going to happen next? And like you said, the transition scene, I'm sure it was intended to be kind of funny with him changing all the different colors and having the hairy arm. But at a certain point, you're like, okay, this is a long setup for hopefully a decent joke. And it doesn't quite pay off that much. If they added a lot more of, actual spoken comedy to this movie, it could have been like one of the best movies of all time.
True. I think it is one of the best movies of all time, but that's because I grew up with it, and it's been part of my life since, age 7. I think it's probably the first time I saw it on TV.
True.
And my father made me watch it. I mean, like, he wanted me to be funny. So he figured, this is where I'm going to learn funny. Although I already got it from my uncle, and my dad was pretty funny, my mom, and everybody else.
And I could be coming at it from the perspective of someone, born in the 80s. All the movies that I got in my youth started using CGI. They started becoming, faster paced, quicker cuts.
Well, yeah, and
crazier action. And so I might have been fed that too much to the point that a movie that takes the pace that the Nutty Professor does, it's difficult.
Plus, you're watching a movie that these jokes were original and wonderful when they first came out. But they have been replicated over and over and over again, and I'm sure that weighed on you too, because you've seen this 1,000 times before.
That is very true.
So
I wasn't seeing anything that was revolutionary.
No,
because it was revolutionary.
Right.
But I'm coming after the fact. I'm seeing all the things that were based off of that, creation.
Exactly, and it is a slapstick movie. It's one of them. It's one of them Buster Keaton. Charlie Chaplin.
I definitely could have,
movies.
just used a little bit more in the way of, the dialogue.
I understand that.
Could have used
because there is a lot missing. One scene we left out, which I won't go too deep into now, but the scene between the principal and him when he's in the
trouble.
Room.
Yeah,
it's all through the eyes. Everything is mostly through the eyes, with the exception of how the chair is straightened out. Again, another. Bill Richmond thing. He had his feet underneath there, and he pushed up on a board to make the chair that he slumped in first, and all of a sudden he puts that little golden book there, and all of a sudden...
Oh, I thought even that was just, you're kind of like, ooh, I feel a little bit awkward for this guy. Even sitting down is hard for him. Exactly. He can't even do that right. God, he just blew up half of his classroom. He's in big trouble, and he goes to sit down, and he even, what did he do? He dropped the pen in the fish tank or something. It's got, a piece of algae stuck to his... It's nonsense. I'm sorry. I don't want to get distracted. What was with that pocket watch he had?
The pocket watch was just whenever he opened it up, it would play this music, and I think it was something that probably was planned to come up more in the movie and never did.
It came up at least like 4 times.
I kept wondering myself if that watch was supposed to be something that Buddy Love would have on him, and then Stella would realize, wait a minute, that's the professor's watch. Why do you have it? But they must have written that out, or it got changed or something.
That's right.
Because what else would attract so much attention but that watch when he opened it? So,
yeah, true. I guess that never paid off.
Never
it was
came to
just
fruition.
weird and obnoxious, and every time someone mentioned the word time, I'd be like, "Oh, here he comes!"
Click. What is the next movie you would like to discuss, my friend?
Oh, let's see here. I've been thinking a lot about it lately. A very influential movie on my childhood. It's not going to be a nice modern movie like Wolverine or Power Rangers. This is going to be, which, by the way, I only watched Power Rangers another like 4 times.
Really?
So I think I'm done for now. Maybe this month.
Great episode, by the way.
The next movie I wanna watch with you and then discuss, The Never-Ending Story.
Yes.
Yes,
it's one of my favorites too.
A wonderful
actually.
movie with amazing visuals and a story that really pulls you in, which is meta in its own way.
I feel like I'm going to be a kid again. I can't wait to do this.
Exactly. I think it'll go great, and it's going to be very interesting because there's a lot of technical stuff that goes along with that movie, and we'll be here to talk about it
on the next
Theater Cast.
Thank you again, Lewis. So that's it for this Theater Cast. And as I look at a distraught young Lewis really racking his brain, there's only one question I've got to ask him. Join us next time when Lewis says,
Ivan.
When a comedian gets an audience to laugh, the ecstasy of that is difficult to define. And I think the best way I can ever speak of that moment is John Kennedy gave me a gift, and it read, "There are 3 things that are real: God, human folly, and laughter. Since the first 2 are beyond our comprehension, we must do the best we can with the 3rd, laughter." I thank you for that, and I thank you for keeping me alive, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know what to do. I thank you for coming, and I wish you all a wonderful life. See you again.